Today I want to share my story, who I am, a little bit of my background, and some of my biggest struggles in life. I identify as somebody who's undiagnosed with ADHD, only learned about this in the ripe old age of 42. My story begins in Denmark. I grew up and I was a child in the 80s. We lived near the sea and woods, and summer days would be spent playing on the beach or going for walks in the woods. My parents were both believers, they were Christian and encouraged us to have a faith as well. But what really worked for me when it came to developing my own faith, I remember my mom sitting in the kitchen in the mornings reading the Bible. I must have been quite small because I remember coming into the room, seeing her sitting there, and she was underlining her Bible in red. And I just had this feeling of this warm, loving presence in the room. And I felt that this whole underlining your Bible must be very important. So I went out and found this little bookmark of mine where I underlined in red. I think that was a moment where I knew faith was for me. I wanted that loving, warm presence in my life too. So I made the decision and underlined my little bookmark in red right then and there. So here's some key moments from my childhood where I discovered the artist in me. I was encouraged quite a bit with drawing. I think teachers noticed that I was very interested in this, and I got given the important task of creating a mural in my primary school. I've felt that teachers saw me and encouraged me from an early age. A very big, important moment for me as an artist. I was in primary school. Mom had got us signed up for a drawing competition and I won. I remember the day clearly. We were in the field playing football. Somebody came out from the office and called my whole class over. My mom had phoned up the school to let them know that I had won this drawing competition. I could not believe my ears. I was so amazed that I had won this competition. It was a computer. It was an Amiga 600, which seemed like a really big deal at the time. But that was a moment where I thought maybe this art thing is something for me. Then also in my secondary school, I was again picked out by teachers and seen and encouraged to create this altarpiece for a church. There was a church nearby the school that needed to have the altarpiece restored, and teachers from my secondary school encouraged me to create a painting of Jesus on the cross for this church. So that was another key moment for me where I thought this painting thing or this drawing thing is really something for me. My mom is a very sensitive woman. She's highly creative and highly sensitive. And the thing about my mom that I think was the most important thing that she did, which has helped me all my life and all of us, I think, is that in my family, emotions were allowed. It was allowed to have your feelings. And feelings we had lots of. I just think that was one of the things that really helped me with the challenges of what I've later come to understand was ADHD. I think one of the keys to me becoming an artist and discovering a passion for art was the fact that I had undiagnosed ADHD. I grew up thinking of ADHD as a small boy child running wild and not being able to sit still. That was all I knew. Boys that can't focus. I found out in the ripe old age of 42, I finally discovered that one of the things that probably made me draw was that when I draw, the noise in my head goes quiet. And when I draw, I don't struggle. So it's a place where I can move freely and make progress without struggling to focus. I found a way to get things done, which was not the best way. I call it hurricane mode. I would just sort of enter into a heightened state. Stepping into a task, I know I need to complete all the steps in order to get there in one setting. Otherwise, I might abandon this idea and it will just never be finished. This hurricane mode was quite useful at times, but it meant that the steps involved in the task were often a little bit rushed, and I would often lose track and not be able to pay the adequate attention to detail which was required. But at least I got things done. One of the things I found with this hurricane mode was that, and I still find this often, that when I prepare myself to enter into the tasks for the day, that I feel this sense of panic in my body, and I start to have impressions of all my bodily needs, hunger, thirst, needing the toilet, all of these things sweep into my mind before I enter into this hurricane mode. It's almost that my body is preparing for complete neglect. As soon as I'm in go mode, I completely override all my bodily needs and all of my awareness of myself. This was not the best way of working, and I longed for a way of working that was more harmonic and didn't seem so hectic and so stressful. So I think that's where drawing comes into the picture, because when I draw, I can work and it's not that hectic feeling, it's not that stressful feeling. I don't find it hard to pay attention to detail, and I can really move in a way that feels good, a way that feels that I'm working in harmony with my energy and with my capacity. So I think drawing was more than just an activity, it was a medicine for my mind. I really found this was something that I really needed. So my reason for drawing was just that I simply needed it. I just needed to be in that calm place and find that peaceful flow where I can draw and make progress without feeling in a rush and feeling in fight and flight. I knew I had this hurricane mode. I knew I struggled with timekeeping and with being present, and little things kept showing up all the time that were indicators of ADHD, but I just didn't know. I remember friends would comment on me that I was so relaxed. They said, you can be my mentor in relaxation, because I seemed so unaffected by the world on the outside. I know that on the inside it was a feeling of being stuck and not being able to choose out of all of the impulses that would come in, not to be able to make a plan and move forward with one thing. So to the outside, it looked like I was just super relaxed. I remember people commenting on that I was clumsy, that I would bump things and drop things, and that my hands would move really fast. Yeah, I remember I had this one friend that used to laugh and joke, and he would count every time I dropped something or banged something. I would just hear him sitting in the room counting, and we were laughing because it kept happening. So those were signs that I didn't know and nobody really knew. But I feel like the world is changing at the moment, and we're becoming aware of what ADHD looks like for women and girls. And it's important because we are living with such a stress in our lives that you mask it, and all of your life you've been trying to keep up with everybody else who seem to be able to move so cleanly in one direction, and we just struggle so much to keep up. I have not been diagnosed yet. I might do it at some point, and I have twice phoned up to try to book an appointment with my favorite doctor to try to start the process. But each time I feel slightly unsure whether I want to pursue medication and see what that can do for me, or whether I just try to work with my ADHD rather than against it. I have come to the conclusion that I'm going to try to work with my ADHD rather than against it. So one way to work with my ADHD, I find, is to try to have a very, very simple plan something that I can easily remember, so that with some simple steps I can build up my portfolio as an artist, and I can make progress in all the areas where you need to make progress, because as an artist you have to put out, of course, your creation, but you have to have it on a website and you have to advertise it. And so I've been working on finding a simple way to do all of those steps without getting distracted with big unachievable tasks. When I started out, I kept getting distracted into doing big things. So I started off with sculpture and refurbished my whole shed first of all, in order to set up a casting studio out there, which I have used once after spending a month on refurbishing the shed. Then I learned how to build browsers, I learned how to make frames, all things that are not really focusing my creative energy and not really developing my creative skills. So after a lot of big movements with a lot of distractions involved, that I decided, well, I kind of stumbled upon just keeping things really simple, where I would just start to do these drawings. First of all, the plan has to be achievable. It has to be simple and achievable, and kind of something that you can go through all of the steps in 1 or 2 days. It doesn't have to take months before you have produced your sculpture. Something where I can produce something every single day. I can be in that creative flow, but it can go through all the steps that it needs to in order to be published and to be ready to be sold. I found I just needed to scale things down so that I could really spend more time absolutely developing my creativity and focusing on that place where I am tuned in and I'm moving forward without big side quests all the time. My aim for a day is to spend some time creating. So I create one drawing a day and I film it. Then I go on to preparing it for being published. So the next step is called prepare. This is where I digitize my drawing. I'm using a little scanner. It was not an expensive one, but this scanner scans my drawings at a really high res, and I can get them scanned in with 1200 dpi. It is possible then to go on to my step 3, which is deliver, where I upload my finished drawing onto my website, onto my POD, print on demand provider, and I link the two up. Here is a little demonstration of deliver and advertise. This is my latest delivery on my web shop, and if you are interested in getting yourself one of these, head over to my web shop. There's a link in my bio. And then at the end of the day, when I'm putting my kids to bed, I can then edit a video. So I either work on editing my weekly video or my daily the drawing I had made that day. I would have filmed that drawing and then I edit that in the evening when I put my kids to bed. So that's the advertisements. My plan is every day I create, I prepare, I deliver, and I advertise. And so it's got all of the pieces of the puzzle in just one day. I also have one weekly goal, which is every Monday at 11, I have given myself the deadline that I will publish a drawing session, more or less full length, that I've done that week, with me chatting and talking about some topics that I find interesting. That's my ADHD action plan. If you have ADHD, maybe some of these things resonate with you and you could use this way of working for your benefit too. And I will keep you posted on how it goes. But thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you really make lots of progress. If you have ADHD as well, then we can do this and just get out of that paralysis, get into your creative flow and just get moving. It's such a good feeling when you start to make moves that feel like this makes sense and you're involved every day with your creativity. I guess that's probably the goal we all have. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Take care. All the best.